there are just two proposals on the table now that are practical. That's the BBI, which, you know, at the end of it, the report is still out, but we know once it comes out, it will have its own proposals. And the one we know, which is the one for Punguza Mizigo. Now, it has several proposals, which some people have argued are popular, other people argue they are so unpopular and they are unrealistic. And we also know the other side of the story, because they have been vilified. The top leadership of this country have not really spoken to this, but we have seen the people around them speaking to this, and effectively they're dismissing the Punguza Mizigo initiative. But it's still here with us, so let's talk about it. And the striking factors about this is the fact that the question is not even out, but the proposals have caused a lot of ripples and people are speaking about it. Let me hear from you. The BBI has been touted as a tool for the political elite just to consolidate their power. I know it has been said by none less than the majority leader that the direction that will be given by the two, that's Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, who are behind it, will be taken. So does this disturb any of you that we have to reduce an amendment or rethinking of the Constitution to two individuals? And does it also concern you that the kind of proposals that have been made by Punguza Mizigo initiative might take us back? Let me begin with Wakili here.
Let me start with Punguza and first confess that I was one of the signatories to the million people who asked for that amendment. But the bill that has been produced by the Third Way Alliance, to be honest, has been a disappointment. While it promises a lot, very many things to Punguza Mizigo, reduce the burden, in real terms, it doesn't accomplish those objectives. And then it creates new problems that we didn't have. You know, so the challenge is that even if you take just that issue of Punguza Mizigo, what it seeks to do is reduce, you know, the expenditure of Parliament. Parliament spends, what, 2% of the amount of money that we spend on recurrent expenditure. So even if you were to reduce it, you actually don't Punguza the Mizigo. You reduce it a bit, but the donkey will still be collapsing. So while the principle is good, it doesn't really solve the problem. If you take the problem it then creates, as it Punguzas the number of MPs, it then attaches the constituencies to counties, which now creates the question of inequality of the vote, where you now have a county with in Isiolo with the 200,000 people has the same number of representatives too as the county of Kakamega with 2 million people. You see, now you've created a problem that we didn't have before. Then it calls one house the upper house and the other one the lower house without a justification. Why is one the other? It goes to the gender issue and removes, you know, the gender advantages that have been there and that are now we are hoping can get entrenched. Then now you only have now gender equality in the National Assembly. You take it away from the Senate, you take it away from the county assemblies. So in a sense, it gives some things, very little of what it promises, but it takes out a lot of things, yes, which are very, very dangerous and which were part of the Don't forget, Ken, that this constitution was about inclusion. And inclusion has very many components, including the inclusion gender-wise. So if you now start to attack those very foundational principles, and by the way, it still retains Article 27, which requires that all, you know, the government must take legislative and other steps to ensure that not more than 2/3. And then you remove even the protection, the specific protections again is that area. So that's why I'm saying that it promises, doesn't deliver, and then it introduces new problems. Okay. The principle of it was good. I think the idea to reduce the burden was good, but the prescription it has given are not helpful.
Okay. Yeah. Millie, before I ask specific questions about this. Yeah, proceed.
Well, I think Punguza, what is it called? Punguza.
Don't.
No, it's a Punguza Mizigo. I will be kind. Punguza Mizigo, it reminds me of a poem that we used, you know, for those of us who went to school them days, when we used a book called Mzee Safari. And there was a woman who said, my husband went to Nairobi. He promised me a sewing machine, but sent me a needle instead. So that's what this Punguza Mizigo is all about. That it is very strong on promises. If you talk about it overall, the wording is colorful. The wording is very fancy. Like Kenyans are really struggling Kenyans are overburdened. Kenyans, have no jobs. So when somebody comes and tells you, we are going to punguza your mzigo, what will you do? You say, yeah, that's a good thing.
It's a
so every
populist
Kenyan, it's yeah. And you have actually taken words out of my mouth. That when you actually look at it, it's anchored on what we call the popular initiative of constitution amendment. And I think these guys confuse popular initiative with the populist. Because what this constitution is not a popular initiative, it's a populist. And it is populist because it is very short on delivery. And I can give you an example. I know you'll be asking us very specific questions, but one of the things that it's saying that was a very attractive, when I heard about it, even before I looked at it in depth as a lawyer, and I heard that it's going to provide, sort of parity, one man, one woman at the National Assembly. I said, that's a good idea. But then when I looked at it, what this bill is doing is that it is actually retaining women reps and introducing men reps. So we have women reps and male reps, which we didn't have before. So that's basically what you are telling me, that now we have women reps, because when you say that the county will produce one woman MP and one man MP, I'll give you an example of Homa Bay County. We are women for women already. There's Gladys, there's myself, there's Eve, and there's Dr. Gogo. So let's assume that we all want to still be MPs. And you say that there's one position for a woman. Everybody will vote for us for that one position. So what am I going to be? A woman rep. I will move from being a member of parliament in a single constituency to a woman rep. Because people will not vote for me as against a man. I will be fighting against a woman.
Yes.
So you're actually taking away my gains, because I was fighting so that I can, sort of fight on an evil kill with my brothers. But what are you telling me? That it is no longer, you are taking me back to affirmative action and telling me that you are doing me a favor.
And it's the only option you have now.
Yeah, that's the only option. And then the men, you are going to get men to fight against themselves. What does that make them? Male reps. So we will have a woman rep and a male rep in the National Assembly. That's essentially what this is doing. So without even saying, and then I think sometimes we also need to understand things, historically, and put them in context. Why is the Senate called the upper house? I have been there myself, I have, visited, and the historical bit is that actually it was a physical thing, that one was upper and one was lower physically, not in terms of functionalities. Okay. So sometimes we also pick things without understanding. But even when you actually go in depth and look at what the bill is doing, which is purporting to give powers, to the Senate, it actually, to be honest, I'm very disappointed. Look even at what it seeks to do in clause, not clause, but Article 111. It amends Article 111 by deleting sub-article 2 and 3. But then it anchors the sub-article 1 on the 2 and 3, and they are already missing.
Deleted.
And they're already deleted. This is a constitutional process that we are not going to amend in the House.
Okay.
So what are you telling? You are telling us even that we are going to have a defective
Someone would say, Millie, we are still yet to debate this, so why don't we give it a chance?
Yeah, but because I'm a lawyer, I'm not a pedestrian. And as a lawyer, I know that even when we are debating it, once you bring it before the House, there are no amendments. So once you make that critical mistake, what are you telling us? That I'm going to pass a constitution with those kind of critical, amendments. Okay. And even sometimes, even the most basic ones, let me tell you that even just, even not the technical ones. Like, for instance, if you look at how the bill is propositioned, it's called Punguza Mizigo, in bracket Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill. When you look at the practice in Parliament, even in terms of the rules of debate, you don't mix Kiswahili and English. So at the very basic, the first thing we will ask the Speaker is to make a ruling whether such a bill is properly before the House. But someone could
also argue that that's just a name, and you can't translate a name. Punguza Mizigo is just a name. So
we went to the law school so that we cannot translate Punguza Mizigo in English.
No, but if you have a Swahili name, you don't have to translate it.
Please.
Let me hear from Alutalala.
No, Ken, personally, I'm a bit, I'm lost because in my view, the question we should have asked ourselves first is whether we need constitutional amendments or not. And you see, this is what I said. Politicians in this country have a way of actually dictating what will be the national discourse. How flexible should a constitution be? You know, if you look at the first governments in the ancient civilizations in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, the first time that law, and that is the constitution, emerged, it was used as a tool of governance. And so people would then change constitutions depending on the social outcomes they want. How flexible should be our constitution? And when we say we want to amend our constitution, shouldn't we first as a nation do a critique and analysis of the existing constitution? Establish what percentage of this constitution is bad and what percentage is good. If we have a percentage that is good, in terms of implementation of what is good, at what rate can we mark ourselves? Because I'm aware that even the oldest of democracies, like India, for example, has had about 103 amendments to its constitution. The US has 27 in its 203 years. I have no problem with amendment provided that the entry point is valid. And in my view, the entry point is not valid. Why do I say so? The BBI. What is the origin of the BBI? The BBI is the origin of the handshake. What is the origin of the handshake? Only His Excellency, the President, and the Right Honorable Prime Minister know the reasons that informed the handshake and therefore the BBI.
I think they've explained that, Wakili.
The way that body is constituted has a bearing on which direction it will take.
Okay.
This must be very clear. And therefore, for me, what they have told us in the 9-point, that is what the BBI intends to do, I ask myself, this issue of inclusion, do we need to amend the Constitution to bring inclusion? The issue of electoral justice. Right now, as we speak, when NASA and Jubilee were fighting very badly in 2017, Jubilee actually sneaked in and did amendments on the Elections Act, which effectively, when you look at it keenly, could mean that the election could either manual or digital or a combination of both. Do we need to amend the Constitution to change that? Right now, the senators and the MPs are fighting over a simple thing which we all are agreed that they ought to have agreed. Do we need to amend the Constitution to change that? So in my view, the reasons informing the very onset of this debate are not right, in my view. But having said that, Punguza Mizigo is a fantastic idea on the face of it. But what I do not know is whether they did not have capacity in terms of draftsmen or women, because you find that their recommendations conflict. It gives you the left hand and takes away the right hand. And the best example is what Millie has said here, Article 111. And if you read that Article 111, so that the audience can understand, these are special bills concerning county governments. And 111.1 says that a special bill concerning a county government shall proceed in the same manner as an ordinary bill concerning county government, subject to clauses 2 and 3. That means that for that particular one, you need to anchor it on 2, which says the National Assembly may amend or veto a special bill that has been passed by the Senate only by resolution supported by at least 2/3 of the members of the Assembly. He has deleted 2 and has deleted 3.
So how does one happen?
Thank you.
It does not happen.
Thank you.
So you have just killed special bills, effectively, because it will not apply.
You know that, let me say something Daktari has said, that one of the problems we have as a country is we keep offering Kenyans a mirage, you know, and that mirage is usually law.
Thank you.
You know, my own conviction, and I was paid by this country for 5 years to oversee the implementation of the Constitution, is that while our Constitution has problems, and it has problems because it's a document made by man, it is not the problem.
Thank you.
You know, and until we fix the problem,
The problem.
we'll keep tinkering with the document and amend here and there. but actually will not be resolving our fundamental problems. Because this constitution, with all its defects, was informed by what fundamentally affects Kenyans. The question of inclusion, it actually sought to resolve the question of inclusion with its myriad perspectives. It may not have resolved it completely, but it did. Yes. It sought to resolve the question of distance, the fact that people felt distant from their leaders through certain mechanisms. It resolved the question of equity, which people had complained about over years. It has those solutions to Kenya's fundamental problems. To the extent that we have refused to resolve those problems, we have refused to resolve them. Despite what the Constitution says, we are now telling Kenyans, actually, if we want, what we need is more amendments. It is not true. In 2015, Parliament required the Auditor General to do a report. You know what was called the social audit of the Constitution. And the thinking of the team was that the Constitution was a problem. So they actually went to collect views. They went around this country, they did a report. That report said, this Constitution has no problem, even on the question of the wage. He said, you know, we could tinker here and there, but the fundamental problem is we are not implementing it the way that it was sought to be implemented.
So that's where we should have
So that is where we should actually be doing a national audit of saying, this is where we wanted to be in 2010.
Thank you.
This is how we have gone. Now we have realized that despite this implementation, these problems still exist. So let us resolve them. Having said that, even on BBI, I am one of those who thinks there may be some benefits to expanding the national executive. But let us not lie to ourselves that will resolve Kenya's problems.
Because
let us not lie to ourselves. If we really want to resolve inclusion, in fact, for me, if we expand the national executive and weaken devolution, we'll have a disservice to this country. It was a betrayal to this country. Okay. So if we must, and I suspect we will, because once the chief kahuna said we're going there, we're going to go there. But for me, the trade-off must be strengthen devolution. So yes, increase the top if you must. You know, we must deal with the national elite, but we must ask the question whether the Constitution is about them only. But and then we must resolve the question of the bottom.
So the media has let us down, because the media has swallowed this bait, hook, line, and sinker.
No, but we don't have an option. We report what we report.
Now we are telling you that the Constitution amendment is not a priority.
Okay. I'm going to talk about
I will disagree with that.
Yes.
And the reason about the constitutional review not being a priority.
Okay.
And I will disagree because, you know, we have been at it now as women for many years. And for us, it's an issue of inclusion as women. That the Constitution as it is, because we actually did not cure certain parts of the Constitution, that's why you have 27, but then we are not able to get the numbers that we need for women.
Oh, in Parliament?
And for,
in National Assembly.
In National Assembly and even a bit in Senate.
Which you have refused to implement yourselves.
Yes, we have refused, but what I'm telling you, that's why when we are talking about the referendum not being necessary, it is necessary for that alone. That is one.
But you'll still refuse.
Because we have done the parliamentary initiative which has failed, but we can use another initiative which is a popular initiative.
But still, so you agree that it's still election that will take them to parliament, regardless of what is done. It's still, they must be elected. There must be some form
Not
of
necessarily.
election.
They can be elected. They can come through affirmative action. There can be different ways. It's not necessarily by, I came into parliament by nomination, but that is not the issue. What I also wanted to say that when I joined parliament the first time, the 10th parliament, I preferred the system of governance I found then. It may not solve all of Kenya's problems. Maybe the people in my constituents who are sick will not get better because then we have a different system of governance. But for sure, it was a way much better system, especially when you have ministers in the house. When we have issues that affect our people, you can get instant solutions. You can get, I don't have to go and queue in outside a minister's office the whole day to try and solve a simple problem in my constituency when we are having them in the house. Yes. So for me, there are two critical issues that I would love to see. A change of the system of governance and inclusion, even as you see the Punguza Mizigo, the main thing it actually does is to punguza the women, because that's the bulk of what it actually does. Okay. It actually, if you ask me, I don't know who the framer was, but seemed to really have an issue with women. Because the bulk of it, even if you look at Article 100, he has gone to amend, if you are actually genuine about removing people. removed women and marginalized communities, but curiously left ethnic minorities. So it is also very selfish.
Okay.
The drafters are also very selfish.
Okay.
And also, I can also say, just before you support me on that, I also want to say that we must also be alive to the fact that the constitutional making process is both a legal and political process.
Yes.
Yeah, so you cannot divorce politics from it.
I was going to say, and that's why I started by saying the Constitution has some problems.
Yes.
There's no question. I mean, the issues that are raised, and there'll be different views on these issues. I think the problem for me is the lie we give to people, that the problems we have today are about the Constitution. And if we finally fix this thing here and fix this here, our problems are resolved. And I am saying that as the Constitution is with all its problems, if we were to be faithful in implementing it, we would resolve 75% of our problems. Then we can now sit and then say, but there's this, because let me give you an example, even on the women issue. Okay, I can understand that because of the way we have designed our electoral process, we may not be able to reach the not more than 2/3. Why has it been impossible to do it in appointive positions? You know, because there's no reason why, because there's nothing that stops us appointing a 50-50 for women peers, because they are there, they are qualified. There's no reason why we can't do that for ministers. As it is now, we try and reach the 1/3. You know, it's now become the 1/3 principle. We are aiming for the 1/3 and we just get below. That tells you we are not committed to the concept.
Yes.
I can guarantee you that if we are committed to the concept, we would also have more women who are more visible, achieving and accomplishing a lot. It would even make it easier for us to elect them.
Okay.
So what I am saying is that while there are problems, and one of them is that gender problem, that is not the solution to Kenya's issues. So that is why for me I'm saying I recognize what Millie is saying. It's a political process. And I have come to the reality that I may not like it, but it's going to happen. But for me, we must then, as citizens, ask for trade-offs. We must be able to say, fine, expand this because we must bring everyone, you know. But then what for the citizen? What's in it for us?
Yes.
That's the issue for me. Okay. And the issue for me is let us deal with the question of empowering devolved systems.
Okay.
Let us strengthen accountability mechanisms so that people don't steal from the citizens. We must ensure that people get punished, but at the end of the day, let us strengthen those institutions that give power to the people.
Okay. Yeah. If you look broadly at the constitution that we have and we're seeking to amend, three things are central in my mind: human rights, devolution, and of course inclusion. They're central in the constitution, and there's need. I wanted to give you specific examples on this, but I know each example I'm going to read, there must be a rebuttal. There must be something about it, because I was going to ask, for example, can't you find something positive in the Punguza Mizigo? Because we can't talk a lot about the BBI. The report is still out. We are speculating on what will come out of it. But I was going to ask, for example, the 7-year presidential system, that proposal. But I know there must be a rebuttal. I was going to ask...
Yes, I'll give you the rebuttal.
I know exactly. That's why I'm reluctant now to ask specific questions. Because, for example, the allocation of 35%, that's where we began. If I bring that up, you're going to tell me, but we can't even give 15. Why are you asking for 35%? So a lot of these things I wanted to ask, I see I'm going to get responses on this, and it will not
we will not necessarily have rebuttals on all of them as negative, because even when I first started, I actually thought that the 50-50 for women was attractive. But when I actually sat down and looked at the bill, I said, Buana, this is a joke. You know, no, it's not something hidden.
It's very apparent.
I think the person who thought about Punguza Mizigo, very broadly, may have had a very good notion and a good idea, but they just didn't have the correct formula. It's like what I was saying about my husband went to Nairobi and promised me a sewing machine, but sent me a needle instead. The needle still will sew, but it will take me 50 years to make this kind of dress I'm wearing. But a sewing machine might get me a
little faster.
Yeah, a little faster.
You said you don't agree necessarily that this we don't have to amend the constitution at this point. But
no.
That's me.
Oh, that's what you said. You don't. Yeah, he said actually he agrees that it should happen.
We have been trying to amend it for the last
6 years, 7 years.
As long as I've been in parliament.
I think 6 years.
As women, we have been trying to amend it almost every year.
And my worry, Millie, is I suspect that one of the things that will go is that one.
Well, I know that it may be moved,
Yeah.
but we will put up a fight.
I think
Yes, I know that might come up, and the reason why it might come up is because, again, based on the rumors, is that because of the way the women positions have been demonized, that when you go and talk generally to the public and you tell them what should go, they'll tell you, women reps, they are wasting, our resources and time. So that is one of the most attractive things for people to remove. And also because of our...
You don't think there'll be a trade-off when it comes to that?
I think there may be a trade-off.
Yes.
I think there may be a trade-off.
But it should be clear this time.
Yes,
it should be clear.
Well, but the BBI, at this point, we are basically speculating. What we can talk about for a fact is the one that we already have before us, the Punguza Mizigo. And the Punguza Mizigo, every single place they find women, it's like there was an allergy to women. That every place you find a woman, remove. Every time you find a woman, remove. And then
or something specific to the women.
To women. Yes. And then we are being conned that we are having this half-half with us and the men by what I'm telling you, that we are bringing it at the county level. But at the county level, you have actually killed. I've given you the perfect example of Homa Bay County. That essentially what you will have done is, assuming all the four of us were still interested in being members of parliament, then we will all four of us go and fight for the women rep position.
At the county?
Yes, at the county.
Then come
because
back.
you will have killed my position as the member of parliament for Suba North. You will have killed the Honorable Eve's position in Kabondo. You would have killed the Honorable Gogos in Rangwe. And we will all go for the position of women rep. So, newly christened to something else. But it is women rep. Yeah. And then there will be a man rep. I don't know if it is Honorable Kaluma who will be the man rep for Homa Bay or Honorable Mbadi who will be the man rep for Homa Bay.
That is enough for a vote against it. But you see, it is so bad
yes.
that even an Article 100, the one that says that Parliament shall enact legislation to facilitate the equal representation, it removes the one on women.
Okay. Yes, only women.
Yeah, it removes.
Yeah.
So, and let me put it. I think there's, from my perspective, there are certain things that what is it called, the Punguza Mizigo. I think it has a couple of progressive provisions. The problem is that you either take all of it or reject all of it. And the problems, the ones that are bad, are so bad that they can't be redeemed by the little of the few that are good. That is actually the problem with
like the 35 is not bad for the counties.
Yes.
But now it is 35 against, let me give you the most ridiculous one I had there. That corruption cases to be completed
45 days.
In 30 days.
No,
appeals
don't
in
even
21.
put it, it's the appeals that are in 21.
Okay.
But the corruption days are 30 days. When you tell that to a lay person, it sounds very attractive.
Yes.
But now, fortunately, we are sitting here as lawyers.
Yes. Yeah.
And fortunately, we are sitting as people who are practiced in the law courts. 30 days.
Impossible.
Corruption cases. It's impossible. This is the easiest way to let go of crooks. Because there is even that provision that's not say that when it's not completed in 30 days, what then happens? Nothing. They will go home dancing. So people will go in with their 30 days. They will not be completed in 30 days, and they will go because of that 30 days. The perfect example is the case, you remember the case more recently, I don't know because I was not too involved, but the one for Honorable Martha, that the time was up. And too bad for her, time was up. And that is exactly what is happening here. We will not hear you.
But
when your time is up, it's up. And then the other issue, on the issue
just
of,
hold on this. The assumption
leadership.
is the DPP should have done investigations, the ESCC, they'll have proper evidence. So what we're doing in court is just tabling this and there's a determination. That's the I still want to go to Millie.
Let me tell you, I will give you,
yes.
even when you make that assumption and they have done their evidence and all that, I sat in the legal committee in the 10th Parliament when we were looking at the Goldenberg case. And when we sought for the evidence to be brought to us, it was a room full, not a pickup. It was room full. And Honorable Abdi Kadir started leafing through them. I went through 3. And I said, I'm not going to die here because this is not... I can't, honestly.
Okay.
It was too much. It required us to just going through it. Required months. Then now when you go there and you will present as prosecution, and not only, this is 30 days is prosecution and defense.
Yes.
So you will go and say your prosecution, defense, then the judges will also
have their time to
write
consider.
their judgments.
Yes.
not
30
possible.
days.
So
it's impractical.
Which is the other one?
Absolutely
Which is the other
impractical.
one? Before I tell you
The
mine,
other one
that
is
ridiculous.
leadership and integrity. That in leadership and integrity, we are talking about there will be anybody who has been mentioned in public inquiry and any audit report
Will go home.
will not even go home. The word, you know, now we are thinking as lawyers, you'll be asked to, what was the word? There's some strange word there. Vacate. Is it
They'll
the one that
vacate
you...
office and they'll be barred from holding public
No, this
office.
one, the 73 one will vacate office, will be barred from holding public office. Now, let me give you one of the examples of public, because then I've even looked at the current constitution. There is no definition of public inquiry. I have looked at the Punguza one, I've not seen a definition. So then it means you can put anything within the ambit of public inquiry, including the WACI post-election violence inquiry, which then mentioned 6 people, including the president and the Deputy President, William Ruto. What are you saying? That if this passes, immediately Deputy President William Ruto will not vie as president of this country. That is what this is saying. Okay. And then finally also on the issue of where they're saying that if you are an accounting officer or state officer whose department is cited in an annual audit report of OUCO, then you must vacate office.
Just
now
cited.
legally, I don't know, maybe my other colleagues can help you. Legally, we don't just throw words. What is vacate office? What does vacate office mean? Does it mean I walk out of the door?
Is it a resignation?
Is it a resignation? Is it a suspension? What is vacate? And then when you say department, like now, because if you talk about state officers, even members of parliament are there. And you say if our department are mentioned, me as the member of Suba North, what is my department in parliament? I have no department.
Those, they are populist. They're very populist, provisions
things
which are
mean
very
nothing.
attractive.
Yeah.
But when you unpack them, they are not helpful
At all.
Yeah, they don't apply even basic principles of due process. You know what? You know, because
Exactly.
there's no process by which you just need to be mentioned.
Yeah.
You are not even aware, and you go home. Then you see, normally it even says usually you are suspended pending the conclusion of something, so that if that process finds you are innocent, you come back. But this one says the mere mention, you
Of
live
your name.
forever. You know, it's so it's attractive, it's exciting.
They're
but
setting the bar too high, I would say so.
No,
They're
no,
setting the
no.
bar.
It's not even
It's not
setting
even
the
a
bar.
bar. Yeah.
There is no bar. This one has no bar.
But just wondering loudly, I wish you had found time to call the guys behind this.
Yes.
Because some of the suggestions I'm making, I want to believe they had some justification, but we don't find it. 7 years for the president.
Exactly.
What about the rest? Is the life of parliament also 7 years?
5 years.
It's 5 years.
So
you stagger the elections.
So you have to
They
start the elections so that
effectively,
this president will be in town.
both, yes.
Will be for 2 different parliaments. And when this, what are we trying to heal by the 7 years? So that one president.
You come in, you do your work, you know, you're not looking for a second term, so you do proper work because you're not beholden to the voters in the next term.
But then also, one of the things that you can be doing is because I know I'm not beholden to the voters, I'll loot and go home.
Go home after 7
That
years.
is one. But also
Okay.
what we will be doing is, you know how Kenya, we are so, you love, you know, politicking all through. What in reality it means is that we'll be campaigning for the position of MPs for the 5 years. And soon as we are done, we start campaigning for the president in 2 years.
Okay.
So we will just be campaigning throughout.
But remember, the other
Campaigning.
president will do 3 years and 5. 3 years of that parliament and another 5, because it will be 7. He'll get it when the other parliament has done 2
But it
years.
means we'll have a midterm election.
Yes, somewhere.
Yeah, we'll have a midterm election.
right.
Yeah.
But either way, we'll just be campaigning.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other one is about abolishing the position of deputy governors.
Okay, now that's another one,
Yeah.
which the
Yeah,
consequential effect has not been thought through. It then says that the governor will appoint one of his CEC members to be the principal assistant. Now, what it doesn't apply its mind to is that it retains a provision that says that once a governor vacates office, his entire executive lives with him or her.
Exactly.
So what happens?
What happens? Which means between that time and the elections, there's no executive.
There's no executive
There's
in
no
accounting.
executive in accounting.
So in other words, this was not well thought
It
out.
wasn't thought through,
At all. At
The
all.
idea of
The idea was
Punguza in
great.
the Mzigo
Was
was,
good.
very
Was great.
bright,
Yeah.
but when you go to the details, I'm honestly very disappointed.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll give